Hello, welcome to the channel and thanks for watching. Now, one of the best things about Necromunda is taking your gang through the campaign, watching them grow, equipping them with new weapons that you've bought from the trading post or stolen off your rivals if you do that in campaigns. The disadvantage of that, however, is you keep having to buy extra models to build with that new piece of equipment, and your gang and model collection can grow and grow and grow. Now, if you don't fancy doing that, one option is magnetising. So I've been messing about with magnets a bit lately, and I thought it'd be interesting to see what I could do with a Cawdor gang. So the beauty of Necromunda is you get two sprues that are identical for every model, so it enables you to do what I'm doing with the heavy here, which is taking the left arm off both the models and taking just a junior hacksaw, just a £3 thing from Wix or somewhere, and cutting down the line where the wrist meets the arm. Now, on one of the pieces of model, I'm wanting to save the wrist and the pole kind of part that goes onto the crossbow. So I'm sawing down to that wrist, stopping when you get to the level of the pole, and then just tidying up the pole and cleaning up around the arm. So I just clippered the arm off that was touching the pole. Then on the other arm, I'm after saving the actual arm, and I'm not bothered about the weaponry bit. So again, saw through the wrist, but this time clipper off the actual pole and things and just tidy up the arm so that the arm can then be glued onto the model. Now that's the principle going through all of these. I'm following the basic build instructions, but stopping at any point where it looks like a hand is going to get glued onto a model. Same thing here with the right arm. So I'm only using one of the arms this time because you can just do a clean cut straight through. So the right arm that holds the kind of missile, just chopping straight through the wrist and then separating the two parts, so the hand that holds the missile and then the arm, and gluing the arm onto the model. And that's the principle to carry on kind of through the rest of the gang. Stop yourself before you're about to have a hand glued to any part of the model, whether that hand be attached to the arm or whether that just be a separate hand you're about to glue on. Now, when you're doing this thing, you can see here how sort of slow and methodical I'm being with that saw. Don't hack at it back and forwards, because for one, you might suddenly slice through the model and slice into your fingers. The other one, you can ruin the models. So just real slow and gently, just gentle moves, don't go crazy at it. Doesn't matter if it takes you a couple of minutes to get through a hand. Slow, careful, you'll have less waste, you'll make less problems. That's not to say I didn't ruin some pieces as I was going, but just be as careful as you can, because you don't want to do that. And then every time you make that slice through, just tidy them up. And just make them as neat as possible. Now, if you're using 2 bits of spruce, so you're making the cut on 2 arms, just be careful where you're making the cut, because if you're going to discard the hand part, for example, well, cut closer to the hand. If you know on this piece you're going to discard the arm, cut closer down the arm, because you will lose a little bit of the plastic as you make this cut. Now, the ones where you're going to maintain both sides, like the bit you're going to lose won't really matter, but obviously, you want to try and keep it as realistically sized as it was before. So you can see here I've just built the crossbow part for the heavy, and you can see the hand there separate. So just some examples of what you're going to come up when you do the set. So here's where we've got 2 arms that are going to be holding one of the pole weapons. Absolutely fine, same as anything else. Just make sure you're getting those arms really lined up to those hand pieces before you let it set, because obviously when you normally build it, you glue the hands in and then it would set on its own. And here's just a really interesting one. So this is one of the characters that's holding the rifle kind of up onto his leg. This was a little bit fiddly to remove the weapon, but it's the same principle. So you can see here just slicing through the wrist, and then it is a bit messy on that model as we've tidied it up, but it's absolutely fine. Not a problem that messing will be there, because the arm will be in the way. And then with the other piece, again, we're just looking at rescuing the arm, and we're not worried about discarding the rest of the piece. So I've sawn straight through the hand. You can see they've folded it apart, and now we're just going to clip her around to rescue the arm piece. So no matter what the weapon fit is, as long as you follow that principle of one of these pieces, I need to save the hand and the weapon, the other piece I need to save the arm, it's fine. And again, you can see here how we've just cut through some of the arms onto the raised pistol pieces. So every model is infinitely doable. Just take your time, be careful. Now, the magnets we're using here, I've ordered these offline. They are 1mm by 2mm, so 1mm wide, 2mm deep. Go more than a millimetre, especially on Cawdor. The wrists and things are very, very thin, so you do need a very thin magnet. Bigger models, you can use bigger magnets, but Cawdor are quite skinny, kind of why in a way it's interesting to do the skills test with them. Now what I've done is I've taken all the magnets, put them into a run so that the polarity is all exactly the same. Then I'm taking just a half-size piece of sellotape and putting that across somewhere around the middle. Doesn't matter where you put this, you'll see why later. And this is going to be a little handle really for manipulating the magnets, and also this is going to enable us to check the polarity and make sure we don't put the wrong magnets in the wrong pieces later on. So all I'm doing is taking a little bit of my crack blue, use whatever colour you like. I'm using blue for body, so that when we do this, you'll see what I mean in a second. So I've painted one side of the magnet strip, just near where the sellotape is, blue, so that I know that's the end that's going to go into the body. You'll see again in a second. I'm taking a pin drill, and I'm making sure that this pin drill is about the same size as the magnets. You either want it exactly the same size or slightly wider. Obviously don't go thinner because you won't be able to get the magnets in. But I've got lucky here and I happen to have one exactly the same size. Now I'm going to go through the gang, take a super sharp craft knife, hobby knife, this is my favourite one that you've seen on the channel before. Put a little dot in the centre where you want the piece to go, and this is your line guide. And again, when you're using the pin drill, super slow, super careful, just to drill. And you need to drill, again, a couple of millimetres down into the model so that the magnet will fit. So I'm speeding it up here. And again, you'll gradually learn, obviously, how deep to be going. Now, I'm just using the end of the hobby knife just to widen out that hole a little bit. And that'll help when we put the magnet in, just to kind of socket in place, because it is going to be very tight. Now, a tiny dot of super glue, if you put too much on, doesn't much matter, but, you know, you'll, on some of the other footage, I've blobbed glue everywhere, like you always do. Now, pick up the magnets. Now you can see here on the end of the sellotape, it's the blue end is going towards the body. Drop it in, that slight sort of well you've created by using the knife to widen it out, hold it in place, and then take something non-metallic to push the magnet into the hole you've drilled. And there you go, that's one magnet in. So hopefully you've seen there I used the blue side of the strip to go into the body. And here we're doing the same process, using the knife, put the dot in the centre as your line guide, drilling super slowly, super carefully, although this is obviously sped up. If you could go at this speed, it'd be amazing. You'd have your creations done super quick. Widening it out with the knife, making it slightly deeper because I haven't made it quite long enough. A little bit of glue again, and then push the magnets in. So it's fairly simple. The key part of this whole thing is knowing which magnets to put in where. So when I'm going to the hands, so when I'm doing the hand side, you can see just the sellotape there. I'm using the side of the magnets that hasn't got blue paint near the tape and on the first few magnets. Again, push it in with something non-metallic, and then it'll squeeze in and it'll leave it flat. So key parts of this is try and make the drill central on the pieces you're going into. Make sure you're drilling it deep enough. Now, if you don't, you can just clipper through the magnet. It's not a huge issue. It's not really something you want to do. Make sure you go deep enough. And make sure you're putting the right magnets on, because if you start putting the wrong magnet polarities into the body at the wrong angle or the wrong side, the pieces won't stick together. So you see here, just showing you some of those pieces we've done, how we're magnetising them together. So it seems fairly simple and easy, isn't it? It's a little fiddly though, that's the one thing I would say. Small magnets are a bit awkward, pushing them in a little bit awkward, but just persevere with it. I did mess up a couple and actually started doing the leader and messed up the leader, so his wrist joint is not quite correct. So practice on the less important ones, but it's not super difficult. And here I'm just showing you some different bits of equipment that you can take and use for your gang. Now I've taken a lot from normal Necromunda, so you saw there some Delac knives and daggers and things, and the more gangs you build, the more spare bits you'll have. But this is off the Deathcore Krieg set, and there's a couple of really interesting pieces on there. Power sword, I thought would be quite good for using as a leader. All I had to do was clean down the back of the hand to take off the armour that was on there. And there was a book on there that is some sort of chaplain or commander or whatever he was on the Deathcore, and I thought would fit into Cawdor. Now that's how I'm going to approach this gang. I'm not going to make hundreds of weapons now for them to go on. I've made 6 or 7. The idea for me is, as I play the campaign and a weapon comes up that I can then get, or we do some arbitrated scenarios where you can steal weapons off your opponent, as and when that happens, you could even ask your opponent, oh, I've just defeated you and you're Delac. Have you got a Delac pistol I can have? Yeah, fantastic. They might give you one bit of a model kit. You can then come home, do what we're doing here, drill a magnet in, and then the next week you can have that Delac pistol stuck onto one of your gangers as just a bit of, taunting your opponent. So that's the beauty of doing this. Hopefully it should be able to expand the gang really well and give you enough options as well if you want to use one of your gangers as a ganger totally different on the roster. So, most scenarios you play, you don't get to use your entire gang. So actually you could have, in theory, 20 people in your gang, but just use these same 10 models. There we go, just showing you there with the book attached. I think it looks quite nice, worked quite well, and gives lots of options. Now, your leader is probably the one that actually you might want to build a couple of weapons for straight away, because you tend to boost your leader up, It's one of those things, but really do it how you like. Hopefully it'll give you a little bit of inspiration for what you can do. Now, I didn't magnetise the heads. I did consider it, because I figured it might be interesting to be able to switch heads and things out as we're going, but didn't bother with that at the same stage. See here again, just with a Delac dagger, brilliant Delac models for this because you get lots of sort of spare parts, and I have, if you've watched the channel, done pretty much every gang now, so I do have a fair bit of spare parts knocking around and gives you lots of versatility. Just a note on when it comes to painting it, this is just a spray board. I've done it and I've sprayed them silver. You've heard me talk on my channel about that. But cocktail sticks are your friends. Cocktail sticks and blue tack when you're doing it, just to stick onto, again, on the hands. So you're not going to paint that bit, just to make sure you get it sprayed and base coated properly. So I will be painting these on the channel fairly soon. I'm not starting the Necromunda campaign with these guys for a while, and I've got a massive Nurgle force to do. But do keep an eye on the channel. More Necromunda content coming, and check me out on Instagram and Facebook and stuff if you want to see some of the stuff I'm doing. Hope you like that, and see you later.